Sup, Liron here, and today we're going to paint a really beautiful building on location. Sup, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another vid, and we're soon gonna jump into a painting process. I actually just finished recording it outside, so I was painting next to this, really next to one of the banks here in Tel Aviv. There's a really awesome building that I actually sketched and painted many times before. I have another video that I painted it, in which I painted it a long time ago. I'm going to put it in the description box. But in any case, now I knew that there was going to be a really interesting light and shadow conditions, so I decided to go there. So in advance, I knew what I'll be painting and kind of the different light conditions I want to convey. It was right next to the bank, so the bank security came out and saw what I was doing, kind of making sure that I'm not up to something suspicious. And they ended up looking at the paintings and stuff. So in any case, I think this one is a good example of a balance between being able to quickly capture the scene and get enough details in, but not overdoing it and having the entire light conditions change on you, which can happen outside if you're not working fast. I see a lot of people that when they work outside, they work so slowly, and it's like there's no chance you'll be able to capture the light like that. So I think this one was a nice balance between not being too quick, not being too slow, excuse me. And so I really hope you enjoy this one. Let's get started.
Starting with the drawing, as always. So you can see on the left my reference, very beautiful building. It always attracts me to paint and draw it, and I've done, as I mentioned, a lot of these. What you see now is about 4 times the original speed, quadruple speed, because yeah, it's just very long and arduous, I think, the sketching process. I'm measuring a lot, and the focus here is really on painting light, so I don't necessarily want to talk too much about just the drawing process. By the way, I was commented that I need to fix my pronunciation of the word cotton, and I will notice it from now. I used to say cotton, I think, like 100% cotton paper, and that's wrong. So now I'm going to say 100% cotton. So thank you so much for correcting me. I believe it was Sharon. Thank you. I will pay attention to that. It's really cool because I learn a lot of these. I have a lot of these mini mistakes when I pronounce stuff, and it's like things you wouldn't get to know unless you actually post tons of videos and hear feedback. So that's an extra value of doing this YouTube thing, which is fun. So now anyway, I'm sketching the building in perspective. It's moving away from us, the wall on the left, and this is where most of the interest is going to come from. Sorry about the people. I hope they're not too distracting, but the left sides of the building are going to be a little darker. They're going to have some shadow. I'm trying to incorporate some of the street scene on the left, but it's not going to be the focus of this one, so trying to avoid overburdening it with details. And the drawing is pretty much done at this point. Just a few trees on the left from the boulevard, a few trees under the building. There's a lot of things that I see now, and I actually recorded this a while ago, so there's a lot of things I see now that I didn't back then that I think I could have done better, but that's just life. That's always how it is. So now I'm starting with the first wash, and this, again, building is very light, and there's strong sunlight on it, so I'm trying to capture that, and I'm just using a mix of yellow and red. I actually don't remember the exact colors I'm using. I think it's just some kind of a normal neutral yellow, and then the red is probably a bit of quinacridone rose or magenta, something like that. And notice how I'm varying it. There's this very dark wall to the left that I'm now painting, and I'm leaving that kind of happy and bright because there's an undertone to that blackness that is actually warm. It's a bit of a warm color there, at least to me it appears that way. So I wanted to preserve that. So I knew that even if I would darken this entire wall, it's basically a tarp around a building that's under construction. So I knew that even if I'm going to completely darken that tarp, I want to preserve that warmth underneath. So I decided to warm everything up. Now with the trees there, I don't want them to take too much attention, so I'm already starting pretty cool there with the blue, adding a bit of yellow. I don't think I used yellow ochre here, but I can't remember. The downside of these outdoors videos is that it's sometimes a bit more challenging showing the palette and everything. So you just get to see the paper and the view. But the magic is that you get to be with me outside as I paint and as adventures unfold and as people come and comment and fun stuff like that. As I mentioned, actually, the bank security guard, or 2 guards, I think, came by because my camera was recording my canvas, but you can't really tell when you're just looking at it. So, you know, there are people there in the ATM to the left, and so they wanted to make sure I'm not up to trouble. Makes sense. And I saw that they enjoyed the painting process. Now, I didn't get just the beginning of that wash, so apologies about that. There's a bit of French ultramarine and then some actually cadmium red light, I believe. I tried making some kind of an interesting variety in the sky and being very loose about it, not worrying too much, because I didn't try to even get a cloudy sense. I just tried to get a dark, stormy kind of sense. And this is what attracted me to the scene in the first place. And this is why this video is about painting light, because what happened was the sky looked really bleak, and you can see that in the photo reference. But then the sun shined on the building and really lit it up. So this was the look I was aiming to capture, this contrast between a very warm, sunny building and then the bleak sky in the background. Sorry about that. And I think I was able to capture that in an interesting way. So now I sprayed a bit of water on it just to keep it fresh, because I thought I'd add in some more details. So I'm actually using a bit of indigo, I think, in just a moment, adding a bit of darkness to the sky. I know indigo has some issues with the light fastness. I will probably avoid using it for more, I guess, finalized paintings that are meant to be presented somewhere or gifted or client work that I barely do. But in any case, I'll try and steer clear out of this one in those instances. But if I'm just painting for me, that's fine. Now I just checked that it's dry so that I can continue working and adding some shadows. I'm actually mixing now the shadows, and a lot of the mixing is where a lot of the painting happens. You know, you have to really properly mix the right colors and stuff like that. So I'm using a warm shadow for the just under the rooftop. A bit of a red in it. It's basically all of my primaries, so that'll be French ultramarine, a bit of cadmium red, and then the yellow. And I'm just pushing it towards the orange, brown, red. Okay, and that's something I'll do a lot. A lot of people ask how I choose my colors, and I usually like to use just 3 to keep things simple, just my primaries. And yeah, a word about the materials I'm using. This is the silver black velvet brush, size 8. I used the size 12 earlier, if I'm not mistaken, or this could be size 12, and it's hard to see from here. Oh yeah, I think that's the size 12. Yeah, but in any case, silver black velvet. Then we've got the papers Saunders Waterford, which is my current favorite. I'm using almost only that. And yep, I'm using my board. It's like a wooden board, and it's connected to a special painting tripod that I bought by, I think it was US Art Supplies, that's how it's called, from Amazon. I actually looked for I tried a lot of these until I found one that's good. This one, you can change the angle, which is important for watercolor. You want to control the flow. So yeah, so now you see how it starts to come together nicely with all the shadows. This is a pretty small piece, so I couldn't be too detailed with it, unfortunately. I am trying to work a little larger. And now I think this is an 1/8 sheet, yes, and now I'm trying to just work on quarter sheets, unless I'm really trying to remove all expectations and just do some quick sketches that I'll do on an 1/8 sheet. So yeah, a quarter sheet is about 11 on 14 inches, if I'm not mistaken. So that's about half of those measurements. And yeah, just adding some of the building's details. And you can see it's very different from what you actually see in the reference. And that's fine. That's part of it. part of trying to get the impression. I am going through an interesting time period right now. It didn't happen while I was recording this video, but now, because it's been a few weeks, I'm going through a bit of a shift where I'm trying to find the right balance between impression and impressionism and realism, because I just want to make sure I'm not using impressionism as a crutch, because I can't do a more realistic work. So I'm trying to balance these out and try to push a more realistic approach at times, then going back to some impressionism. I will say that after working on a lot of realistic work, and when I say realistic, I don't mean photorealistic or anything like that. I have no interest in that, really, aside from maybe the occasional challenge. I actually talk about pushing the impressionism to be as realistic as possible. So it's like my impression. It's not all of the details. It's not a replica of the view, which is impossible. It's more about giving a realistic impression of what's there, so that it will look like a photo.
So just thought I'd show you what I've got so far. Working from memory, already lost the light, as you can see. There isn't any strong sunlight shining on the building, so everything's imaginary. Nothing looks the way it looked when I initially had the vision to paint this. Hopefully the result is still going to be interesting. You can't really see all the intricacies of the colors here, but hopefully you will get to see it maybe in a later stage.
Okay, so sorry for the weird cut. I just forgot that I'm actually going to narrate some of that as well. I was sure it's going to happen in a few seconds, and it just caught me off guard. So in any case, what I was saying, yeah, pushing for as realistic impressionism as possible. That's what really interests me to explore more. Now I upped the pace a bit, so it's about double speed, I think, or triple speed, I guess. Just for the trees and some other random details there. I think I will slow it down a bit later for the final details. But in any case, yeah, so what I found was when I tried to push too much on the realism, I just lost interest. I didn't have interest in replicating what I see, and I know and I'm aware that just a great skill is required to do that, but also the patience kind of killed me. It's like I could get this shape much simply in a much simple manner, and it will still register realistically when you take a few steps back. So why would I want to actually literally paint everything? You know, I don't want to literally paint everything. I don't want to be literal with my work. I love the idea of creating an impression, but I want that impression to be realistic. Okay, I hope that wasn't. That was a bit of a nice side rant there. I hope it wasn't. It was of interest to you. So I'm going through this period of time where I'm trying to balance these several ideas in my mind and figuring out what will work best for me and what will be the most fun for me, I guess, to do. Because I realize how important it is for me to develop my skills. I am doing this to improve, and I know when it comes to skills and the talk about skills and abilities, a lot of people have resistance to that idea because art shouldn't be necessarily about that, and it should be about free creation. But to me, I really enjoy my pieces that have this magical thing to them. I really think it could be interesting if I would have been born like in older times of older masters. I wonder what kind of work I would have done if I would have done that. Probably a lot of things would have been different, and who knows, maybe I would just be a market sales guy or something. But yeah, that's off to imagination land. So now I'm closing off that bottom left corner, placing in some trees there, trying to I don't know, create an impression. I don't like exactly how this looks like. You can see that some of the paint dried, and then I came back with some more. Actually, at this stage, the sun started shining on my canvas, and so the paint dried really fast, and it was hard to deal with. That's something that happens quite often. The sun moves while working outside, so you have to really be careful and be mindful of that. I recorded most of this process, by the way, in slow motion. So what you see now, I could have stretched over, like some parts of it I could have shown in slow-mo. I decided not to because I don't really see the value in doing that for that particular piece. But I do plan on, I keep all of my, video materials for later use. And so I would definitely consider using it in the future for something else. I actually have a Vimeo account with where I can upload videos, like the private stuff, maybe stuff I want to share on Patreon or before it gets out. And I wonder if I should use it like as a backup source, maybe to just upload everything there, all of the raw videos. I don't know. That's a good question, because right now I just upload it on an external drive, and I'm really worried about these kinds of things. Like I'm really pedantic. I don't know if that's a word in English, but in any case, I really care about these things, and making sure that I have my materials for future use and stuff like that. So now I think a bit of a crowd developed around me, which made me lose some of my concentration. That's when the security guards came and some other people stopped by it was just a coincidence that all happened together, so I had quite a lot of crowd around me. You can't really see them in that angle, but from the left and behind me. So that was, it's funny, I really like when people talk to me, but sometimes it just takes me out of focus, so I really have to concentrate hard on the painting. If it happens in a fun stage that's more loose, like the first wash, then that's okay, but sometimes it's a bit challenging. So now I mixed a bit of I think this is a beautiful green for the rooftop, a bit of kind of turquoise feeling to it. And then we have this thing, I let it kind of spill in there, this small detail at the top. And we are really near the end of this. So I'm adding just a few small details. There are these, not hinges, but like wooden pieces that the roof leans on. Some small details that I feel like would improve. But I'm trying really not to overdo it because it is easy. I usually know when to stop, but still. But in any case, this is it. I'm going to share with you in just a moment the final results. From this angle, you can see the building as well, and then the final painting itself. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, so this is the final result. I'm really pleased with this. Again, now some of the light came back, so you can see the original conditions I was working on. Not exactly the same, but kind of similar. Try to mimic it. I'm kind of trying to find the balance between being way too loose and way too messy, and not going into that extreme, but also not wasting tons of time as everything shifts in front of me and just doesn't allow me to capture it. So I think this is a happy medium. Let's wrap up this vid. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed this process. I tried still keeping the colors fresh. I noticed afterwards that some of them were a bit too grayed out. So I'm still working on getting the purity of the color, the balance of the purity of the color down. It's something that still challenges me. And I'm very pleased with the way the simplification, the abstractions came out. I like it that way. Of course, I could have done a better job, but this is just a matter of experience. I'm going to continue practicing and doing this. This is one of the times that I force myself to record outside, and I always get gems out of it. So I'm really happy I'm doing it, and you get to be with me on this adventure. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you still haven't, and click the bell button to receive notifications. Also check out my podcast and my Patreon page, all in the description box below. And I will see you again in another vid real soon.